Hello, my friends. Welcome back. I hope you are having a peaceful day. Today, I want to tell you a very special story. Can you imagine being only 13 years old and having to hide from the world? What would you do if your dreams were suddenly interrupted by events beyond your control? Have you ever wondered how the words of one young girl could touch millions of hearts many years later? Her name was Anne Frank. Anne Frank was not a queen. She was not a famous scientist or a powerful leader. She was an ordinary girl with extraordinary thoughts. She laughed, argued with her family, dreamed about the future, and worried about growing up. Yet her diary became one of the most important books in modern history. If you enjoy learning English through stories like this, please subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring you more beautiful stories for your English journey. Our story begins in Germany. Anne Frank was born on June 12, 1929, in Frankfurt, a city in Western Germany. Her full name was Anneliese Marie Frank. Anne was the second daughter of Otto Frank and Edith Frank. She had an older sister named Margot. The Frank family was loving and close. Otto Frank was a kind and thoughtful father. He had served as an officer during the First World War. He believed in education, hard work, and treating people with respect. Edith Frank cared deeply for her family. She tried to create a warm and peaceful home. Margot was quiet and serious. She worked hard in school and followed the rules. Anne, however, was different. Anne was energetic. She loved talking. She asked many questions. She enjoyed making people laugh. Sometimes she could not sit still for very long. Even as a little girl, Anne noticed the world around her. She liked watching people and thinking about why they behaved in certain ways. Nobody knew that these observations would later become part of one of the world's most famous diaries. During Anne's early childhood, Germany was facing many problems. The country was still recovering from the First World War. Many families struggled financially. People worried about jobs and money. There was uncertainty everywhere. Then a political leader named Adolf Hitler gained more power. However, things soon changed. Hitler and his government began creating unfair laws against Jewish people. The Frank family was Jewish. At first, these changes may have seemed small, but slowly, life became more difficult. Jewish families began losing rights. Many people became afraid. Otto Frank understood that the situation was becoming dangerous. He wanted to protect his wife and daughters. This decision would change everything. In 1933, Otto moved to Amsterdam in the Netherlands to start a new business. Later, Edith, Margot, and Anne joined him. For the Frank family, Amsterdam represented hope. Imagine arriving in a new country. You hear a different language. You see unfamiliar streets. You meet new people. It can feel exciting and frightening at the same time. Anne adapted quickly. She learned Dutch. She made friends at school. She loved reading books and listening to stories. Teachers noticed her bright personality. She enjoyed being the center of attention. She often had something to say. Sometimes she talked too much in class. One teacher even gave her extra assignments because of her constant chatting. But Anne turned punishment into creativity. Instead of complaining, she wrote funny essays. Her classmates laughed. Even her teacher had to smile. Anne's imagination was already shining brightly. As the years passed, Amsterdam began to feel like home. Anne played with friends. She rode her bicycle. She visited neighbors. She enjoyed simple childhood pleasures. She especially loved movies and stories about famous people. Like many young girls, Anne dreamed about the future. She imagined exciting possibilities. She wanted people to notice her talents. She wanted her life to mean something. But there was a problem. Far away, war clouds were gathering over Europe. In September 1939, the Second World War began. Many people hoped the Netherlands would remain safe. The Dutch people believed they could stay neutral, meaning they would not take sides in the conflict. However, things soon changed. In May 1940, German forces invaded the Netherlands. Fear spread quickly. Life in Amsterdam transformed almost overnight. At first, Anne continued going to school and spending time with friends. But gradually, new rules appeared. Jewish people faced restrictions. These restrictions were unfair. They separated people from society. Jewish families could no longer do many ordinary activities. Anne and Margot could not attend their previous schools. They had to transfer to a Jewish school. Anne missed some of her old classmates. She missed the freedom she once enjoyed. Imagine being told that you cannot go where others go. Imagine being treated differently simply because of who you are. It would be confusing. It would hurt. Anne noticed these changes. Even though she was young, she understood that life was becoming more difficult. Still, she tried to remain positive. She laughed with friends. She studied hard. She continued dreaming. Anne's cheerful spirit helped her during uncertain times. Nobody expected what happened next. As the restrictions increased, Jewish families became more anxious. People disappeared from their neighborhoods. Rumors spread through the community. No one knew exactly what the future would bring. Otto Frank watched carefully. He understood that the danger was growing. He began preparing for situations he hoped would never happen. At home, Anne often talked about ordinary things. She discussed school. She described her classmates. She complained about homework. She teased her sister. These moments remind us that Anne was still just a child. Sometimes history books focus only on major events. But history is also about ordinary lives. It is about family dinners, school friendships, small arguments, shared laughter. Anne loved collecting memories of these everyday experiences. Without realizing it, she was preparing herself to become a writer. Then came June 12, 1942. Anne celebrated her 13th birthday. Birthdays are usually filled with happiness, gifts, cake, family smiles. Anne received several presents, but one gift would change history forever. It was a diary. The diary had a red and white checkered cover. Anne immediately loved it. She decided she would use it to record her thoughts. She wanted someone to talk to. She named the diary Kitty. Instead of simply writing events, Anne spoke to Kitty like a trusted friend. She shared her feelings honestly, her hopes, her worries, her dreams. At first, Anne wrote about ordinary teenage experiences. She described classmates. She talked about friendships. She discussed teachers. She wrote with humor and honesty. She had no idea that millions of people would one day read her words. Can you imagine receiving a simple notebook and unknowingly creating one of the world's most important historical documents? Anne could not. She was simply a 13-year-old girl writing about her life. But life was moving quickly, and difficult days were approaching. The diary had arrived at exactly the right moment, because soon Anne Frank's world would change forever. Thank you for listening. In the next part, we will discover how life became even more difficult for the Frank family, why Anne had to leave her home behind, and how a hidden place known as the Secret Annex became the center of one of history's most unforgettable stories. Until then, my friends, keep learning, keep listening, and keep enjoying the beautiful journey of English. We learned about Anne's childhood in Germany, her move to Amsterdam, and the special diary she received on her 13th birthday. But Anne did not know that the diary she had just begun writing in would soon become her closest friend, because life was about to change forever. Can you imagine waking up one morning and realizing that you might have to leave your home without knowing when you would return? What would you take with you if you could only carry a few belongings? How would you feel if the world outside suddenly became too dangerous? Let's continue Anne Frank's remarkable story. After Anne received her diary in June 1942, she filled its pages with stories about school, classmates, and everyday life. She wrote about boys she liked. She described funny moments. She shared secrets and worries. Like many teenagers, Anne sometimes argued with her parents. She often felt that adults did not understand her. Her diary became a place where she could be completely honest. She trusted Kitty with everything. However, things soon changed. The situation for Jewish families in Amsterdam became worse. More rules appeared. Jewish people had to wear a yellow Star of David on their clothing. This star made them easy to identify. Anne did not understand why people should be treated differently because of their religion. She could no longer go to certain parks. She could not enter many shops. She was not allowed to visit movie theaters. She had to obey a curfew, which meant she could not go outside after certain hours. She missed riding her bicycle freely through the city. She missed simple things. Imagine losing the freedom to enjoy ordinary moments. A walk with friends, a visit to your favorite place, a trip to the cinema. Anne tried to stay cheerful, but deep inside, she knew that life was becoming more difficult. Meanwhile, Otto Frank was preparing for the worst. He had already started organizing a secret hiding place. He hoped his family would never need it, but he wanted to be ready. Nobody expected what happened next. On July 5, 1942, Margot Frank received an official notice. She was ordered to report for what was called a labor camp. The family was terrified. They feared separation. They feared the unknown. Otto Frank made a decision immediately. They could not wait any longer. The next morning, the Frank family left their home. They tried not to attract attention. They wore several layers of clothing because carrying suitcases might make people suspicious. Imagine walking away from your house, knowing you might never return. Anne looked around at the familiar streets, the places she loved, the city that had become her home. Everything felt uncertain. The family walked through Amsterdam until they reached Otto Frank's office building. The address was Prinsengracht 263. Behind this ordinary business building was a hidden area. It would later become famous around the world as the Secret Annex. The hiding place was located behind a movable bookcase. To the outside world, it appeared that nothing unusual existed there. But behind the shelves was another world, a hidden world, a place of fear, a place of hope, a place where 8 people would spend more than 2 years together. The rooms were small. The furniture was simple. The windows were covered. Anne's bedroom was tiny. She shared it with another person later on. Privacy became a luxury. At first, Anne found the situation strange. She missed her friends. She missed fresh air. She missed normal life. But there was a problem. The people hiding in the annex had to remain silent during the day. Workers continued their jobs in the warehouse below. If someone heard unexpected noises, the people hiding might be discovered. This meant no running, no loud talking, no dropping objects on the floor. Even using water had to be carefully planned. Imagine spending hours whispering. Imagine being afraid that a simple sound could place everyone in danger. The pressure was enormous. A week after the Frank family entered hiding, another family joined them. It was the Van Pels family. There was Herman Van Pels, Auguste Van Pels, and their teenage son, Peter. Peter was quiet and shy. He loved animals and preferred peace over arguments. Anne did not pay much attention to him at first. Later, their relationship would become important. For now, everyone was simply trying to survive. 8 people living together in a small space was not easy. Different personalities created tension. Different habits caused disagreements. Sometimes, people became annoyed with one another. Anne often felt frustrated. She thought adults criticized her too much. She wanted to be taken seriously. She wanted people to understand her thoughts. Her diary became even more important. In Kitty, Anne found comfort. She described daily routines: breakfast, cleaning, studying, reading, listening to the radio, waiting, always waiting. Outside, the war continued. Inside, time seemed to stand still. However, Anne refused to stop learning. She studied history. She practiced languages. She read books whenever she could. She believed education mattered. She believed knowledge could prepare her for the future. Even during difficult times, Anne remained curious. Can you imagine continuing your studies while hiding from the world? Would you have the strength to keep learning? Anne did. She dreamed of becoming a writer. She wanted to publish books. She wanted people to know her thoughts. At 13 years old, she already understood the power of words. Then another person arrived at the annex. His name was Fritz Pfeffer. He was a dentist. His arrival meant even less space. Anne now had to share her small room. At times, this created conflict. Anne valued independence. She wanted privacy. She wanted freedom. Like many teenagers, she sometimes felt misunderstood. She wrote honestly about these emotions. One reason people connect with Anne's diary is because her feelings are so human. She worried. She laughed. She became angry. She felt lonely. She hoped. Readers recognize parts of themselves in Anne's words. Nobody expected what happened next. Despite the fear surrounding them, Anne continued growing up. She changed from a child into a young woman while living in hiding. She began asking deeper questions. Who was she becoming? What kind of future awaited her? Would she ever return to normal life? Would she ever see her friends again? The answers remained uncertain, but Anne kept writing. Page after page, day after day. She captured not only historical events, but also the emotional experience of living through extraordinary circumstances. And through her words, future generations would come to understand what life inside the Secret Annex truly felt like. In the next part of Anne Frank's story, we will explore daily life inside the Annex, Anne's growing friendship with Peter, the challenges of living in constant fear, and how Anne's dreams of becoming a writer became stronger than ever. Until next time, my friends, keep learning, keep listening, and keep enjoying the beautiful journey of English.